George Blumenthal.
Here.
I'm here too.
Oh, hey, Kim. Thank you. Maria Bonneville,
Present.
Leandra Clark Harvey.
Here.
Thank you. Isabel Derome,
Here.
Elena Flowers,
Yes,
David Higgins,
Here.
Vito Bastiani.
Here.
Pat Levitt,
Here.
Linda Malkus,
Here.
Chris Miaskowski, and Lauren Miller-Rogan. Great, thank you. Maria.
Thank you, Scott. I'd like to take this opportunity to pass it over to Corinne, who will be providing a communications team update. And also Christina will be taking us through the social media strategy. So Corinne, thank you.
Thank you, Maria. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Communications Subcommittee meeting. Before we start today's meeting, I wanted to share some important news with you all. The CIRM team has known about this for a few weeks, but this is my final week at CIRM, and this will be my last subcommittee meeting with you all. And so I just wanted to say a few words. First, that it has been an incredible honor and privilege to serve in this position and to lead the communications team at CIRM. These are some of the most creative individuals that I've ever worked with. I've had the privilege and honor to lead the team. We've been deeply committed to amplifying the work of CIRM. And I know you all will continue to do an outstanding job moving forward. I have so much confidence in you all to move the ball forward. I am very proud of the progress that we've made, which we have shared with you all these number of months. And the work is really a testament to all of the passion and creativity of this team. So I just wanted to say thank you all for, continuing to move that forward with a lot of diligence and passion and creativity. And my hope has always been to make an impact at CIRM. And to move progress forward. I know, CIRM as an agency will continue to do that. So there's so much more to accomplish. I know you all will continue to deliver on your mission. And I will be right there supporting you all on the sidelines. I might even call into the subcommittee to give you my consulting, to give you my perspective. But I hope that we continue to stay in touch. I will continue to be, a great supporter. I have appreciated all of the collaboration and support. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Corinne, so much.
Happy.
With that, we can move on to the next slide. So for today's agenda, we are excited to present to you the social media strategy that we've worked on for the last couple of months. And this will, amplify, a lot of the work that we've been doing throughout the communications plan. We will share some updates regarding outreach events, as well as a recap on some of the events that we attended the past couple of months. We also have a number of communication updates at the end that we would like to provide you all. And so to get started, I am going to turn it over to Esteban and Christina, who led the development of our social media strategy. It is really excellent. I'm so proud of you all. So Esteban.
Yeah, thank you so much, Corinne. And, before I kick it off to Christina, I would like to just very quickly just give a recap of some of our social media efforts to date. If you recall, in 2022, we introduced our first social media plan and strategy that we shared at the Communications Subcommittee. And that plan consisted of an audit, some audience insights, as well as SMART goals, which you see here on the screen. And these were goals that were measurable, achievable, but that would also contribute to our social media growth and really ensure that we're making progress there. And most of our goals focused on reach, audience growth, and engagement. And I wanted to report that we really saw significant progress and success in reaching these goals. Here you'll see some of the platforms that at the time, we had a presence on. For example, on Instagram, one of our goals was to reach 1,000 users per month. And, these were benchmarks based on what our engagement was like at the time. And I'm very happy to report that we did reach this goal. We did maintain an average monthly reach of more than 1,300 users, which represents a 37% increase. On Facebook, happy to report that we nearly tripled our monthly reach goal, and we're able to maintain an average of reaching more than 9,000 unique users per month, which, that is a really significant achievement because that, exceeded our goal by 270%. So that represented a 270% increase. LinkedIn, you hear that LinkedIn has really been one of our top platforms, of course, because there's such a big scientific and industry presence there. But this, again, just really continued to experience the most growth of all of our platforms and really exceeded audience growth and impression goals. Really our goal was to gain 500 followers by June of last year, 2023. And again, very happy to report that by that time, we were able to gain nearly 4,000 new followers, representing a more than 600% increase, which again is really significant. And also, with LinkedIn as well, we also wanted to make sure that our content was being seen. So we set up a goal where we aim to reach 5,000 unique users per month. And again, exceeded that goal and maintained a monthly average post impression of more than 20,000 followers. And that, again, is really significant. I'd like to really just congratulate the team on meeting that goal. And just as a quick reminder, impressions refers to the number of times that our content was seen by users. And on Twitter, well, we saw some growth. This was one of the slower platforms where we saw some slower growth compared to some of the others. We were able to improve our impressions, but we did fall just shy of that goal. However, we were able to meet some engagement goals, when looking at number of retweets. So there was some progress. It was just a little bit slower. And, there were really a lot of changes to that platform. So we attribute it to that. But as always, in looking at some of these goals here, we're always going to look to find ways to improve that. And, as Christina will highlight shortly, there will be some new goals that we've set in the social media strategy. And, just a very quick recap of our audience growth. This gives a snapshot of the individual platforms, but our overall growth. In July 2022, we started with 39,000 followers. And we're now at 48,000 followers, which represents a 22% overall follower increase, which again is also really great. I think this really goes into the awareness factor. The more people that are following us, the more that they're aware of our updates and the content that we're sharing. So really all of these, successful metrics that we're sharing, I think it's really through following some social media best practices. We've seen a lot of success, but of course, it's so important to make sure that we're keeping our social media strategy and our tactics up to date. And that's what Christina will be highlighting shortly, some of those updates that we're making there to keep that fresh. So with that, I am going to kick it off to Christina Smith, who will share, some of the additional insights on some of those best practices that really contributed to this growth, and also just highlight our new social media strategy as well.
Hello, and thank you all for your time today. So as Esteban mentioned, before I get into the social media goals and strategy, I just want to share a general overview of our audience insights on each platform that we have a presence on. And this is more so like performing an audit, which is best practice to do at least once a year, just to make sure that we're providing our audiences with content that really resonates best with them. So beginning with Facebook, we have over 11,000 followers who are all primarily people who are 35 and up. They're mostly interested in content that involves patient stories, informative content, things that would cater healthcare advocates and patient advocates. And we also noticed that content that we push out on Facebook, our higher engaging content is usually community oriented and campaigns like our stem cell awareness campaign. For Instagram, we have around 3,000 followers. It's a younger demographic between 18 to 34 years old. They prefer informative yet visually striking content, videos, or on Instagram, they're called Reels, and carousel posts. Carousel posts are the posts that you can swipe through for different content. And we noticed that the content that really resonates best with that audience is patient stories, educational training stories, and any kind of CIRM-funded research breakthroughs. One tactic specifically that we've been utilizing a little bit more often is the Instagram feature, Instagram stories. And if you're unfamiliar with stories, they're a quick and informal snippet of content that disappears after a 24-hour period. These snippets can be static images tied to an article or a blog link, or short 20-second videos. And since we've been utilizing that more often, we've noticed that we've seen an increase in reach and impressions with new users too. LinkedIn is primarily, our LinkedIn audience, I should say, is primarily researchers, healthcare industry leaders, and academic partners. The content that really resonates well with them, and LinkedIn is very well known for this, but it's for thought leadership pieces. And the content that resonates most with them when we push out is our own thought leadership pieces in regards to regenerative medicine, and posts that provide thoughtful updates on any kind of partnerships and grants. On X, we have around 15,000 followers, primarily consisting of regenerative medicine professionals, journalists, and scientists. Our insights suggest that our audience still uses X to receive newsworthy updates. For example, some of our most engaging tweets consist of thought leadership pieces, messaging in healthcare and biotech, especially when they're attached to an infographic or a short video. We also found that leveraging event hashtags in real time, or what we like to call in the biz is live tweeting, an event increases our reach and our engagement. For YouTube, YouTube is a channel that we've started to really monitor more closely this past year. We currently have over 9,000 subscribers, all diverse in age range. The videos that we publish typically that receive the most views and engagement are ones that consist of interviews, webinars, and educational content. YouTube Shorts is a YouTube feature that we've also started to incorporate into our strategy. And YouTube Shorts is YouTube's version of Instagram Reels, short video content. And we've noticed that since incorporating that, we've seen good results in reach, video views, and even an increase in subscribers. Threads is a newer platform that was released in May of 2023. We created our Threads account at the end of November or December of last year. And because of the platform's newness, Threads has been slowly rolling out features that can be utilized on the platform, such as trend tagging and our account analytics, so we can get a better idea of who our audience is. We currently have over 500 followers, and we noticed that our audience really engages with more conversational, community-oriented content, like our event recaps. They also engage with short videos. All of this data and all of this audience insights have really helped us understand how our audiences vary on every platform, and what kind of content really resonates best with them. This data we were able to leverage in order to develop our updated social media strategy. Which now to the best part, our social media goals and strategy. But before I begin, was there any questions in regards to our audience insights and the data that we found?
Christine, all I can say is I think it's fabulous. It's finally starting to show why we need to develop an outreach to different audiences as opposed to expect that one size will fit all. So I really appreciate what you've done, and also being able to show us back who's watching, who's listening, who's checking in. And that's really good to know, which means, sounds to me like we have, a wide variety of age, from what, maybe teens or young adults all the way through our academics. So I think that's great. It's good to hear.
Absolutely. And I think it's a reflection of the state in general, which is, our audience, right? So
The whole of it.
the whole of it.
I think Kim had her hand raised.
Sure.
Yeah, thank you so much. This really is very insightful and gives you a nice roadmap moving forward to customize the content. I just had a question about the slide that showed the growth in followers across the various platforms. And I just wondered how you did your math there, because, and I was just looking at X because that's the one I particularly pay attention to. I didn't see how an increase of more than 500 was 1%.
So I did the normal increase,
Yeah, I
decrease
guess-
algorithm.
I guess we can double check that
We
one. If
can-
that was an error, apologies there.
Yeah, I mean, you might want to check all of them just to make sure the percentages are right. It's not a big deal, but I pay
Sure.
attention to data, so.
Good,
Sure,
good
yeah,
catch.
Thank you, Kim.
Good
Thanks for
catch.
catching that. And yeah, and we can, if we,
I'll
the
double
great
check
thing
for
is that
you.
we can definitely update this in the social media strategy too. Thanks for pointing that out.
Thanks.
George?
Yeah, thank you. This is a great presentation, and I am really impressed with the progress that you're making on social media. My question is, what limits which social media you go to? For example, I've been reading a lot lately about Blue Sky being something
Yes.
that's replacing X in many people's minds. Is there a limit on how many types of social media you're willing to go to, and how do you make that decision?
Sure. Well, that's a great question, and that's actually something I bring up in the social media strategy as a consideration. I do know that staying on X is beneficial for us because we do have a large following and people are still using the platform. So you want to make sure that you're reaching your audience where they're at. With Blue Sky, it is a very new platform. So we are monitoring it to see how our industry competitors are also utilizing that platform. As of right now, there isn't an immediate plan to create a Blue Sky social account, but that's not to say that, as that starts to garner more users and interest, we won't create an account. It's just making sure that we're meeting our audiences where they're at.
Thank you.
In order.
Vito?
Yeah, apropos of that, just an hour ago, I was reading about Blue Sky. 20 million subscribers, growing at a rate of about 1 million a day, which is pretty impressive. A lot of them happen to be refugees, if you will, my term, from X. And you could probably qualify the kind of people who are leaving X to go toward this, just reinforcing the recommendation that we keep a look at it.
Yeah.
We have seen a lot of our grantees have left X and are going to Blue Sky as an avenue. And Christina and I had a sidebar on this, and she mentioned, she's like, we are monitoring it, we will get to it. So I think it's great that you guys are keeping up on that and
Yeah.
that will inform us when it's time to go.
Yeah, opportunities.
Sure.
And I'll talk more on that towards the end of the presentation. Okay, so any other questions? Nope, wonderful. So again, now to our social media goals and plan. I want to preface before I get really into it that this plan is a living document, and because social media is a very volatile landscape, we want to make sure that we can change things as things progress in social media. So just keep that in mind. Whatever you see can also be changed. So in regards to the social media goals and plan, we broke it down into 3 parts, and that's in awareness, engagement, and content. From a social media marketing lens, our goals revolve around building and strengthening our brand identity on all the social platforms we currently have a presence on, while also educating potential and new followers about CIRM's mission, building the public's trust, and establishing our credibility with the general public in the regenerative medicine field. Doing that also means engaging more with our followers and connecting with them on CIRM's mission and work. To tie all of that together, since one doesn't work without the other two, I should say, our content has to be a balance between informational and feel-good stories. Keeping that balance will set us up for success in keeping our audiences engaged while reinforcing CIRM's core messaging. To help us increase our brand awareness and establish credibility and trust with the public, these are our key strategies. We want to build and leverage relationships with CIRM stakeholders in order to increase our reach on social media. We also want to strategically boost social media posts, also known as just boosting, to amplify future campaigns and key messaging. We want to leverage any publications that may mention CIRM or events that we have a stake in to increase brand awareness and name recognition. And finally, we want to build relationships with influencers in the science and regenerative medicine community who can help boost awareness of our brand, mission, public trust, and credibility. Wanting to be cognizant of time, I'm only going to highlight a couple of these key strategies, but you can find all the strategies and tactics in the social media plan. The first key awareness strategy I'm going to bring up is building new and leveraging established relationships with some stakeholders. For example, in August, our science program and education team updated us that a Compass trainee from Solano Community College, Jose, while he was in the program, registered with the National Marrow Donor Program and matched with an 11-year-old patient from New York. We then connected with Jose, the communications team from Solano Community College, the NMDP, and Stanford's Laboratory for Cell and Gene Medicine to amplify this story. We saw incredible results with an organic reach of over 7,200 unique users across all social media platforms, and also saw over 750 unique engagements across all platforms, whereas our average is usually around 100 to 600 unique users in regards to reach, and maybe like a handful in regards to engagement. And that's just on an average post that we put out on a Tuesday. And something to also note about this case study is that this story also got picked up by the Crom4 News, Yahoo News, and AOL News, all because we leveraged those relationships with Solano Community College and the NMDP. Second strategy I want to highlight is something we've been doing, but we really want to streamline even more, and that's leveraging publications and events to increase CIRM's brand's awareness. So for example, every October, there's a Stem Cell Awareness Day. This year, we leveraged the importance of this awareness day and created a week-long mini campaign on social media. Content consisted of quick 30-second to 1-minute video snippets of CIRM staff explaining what stem cells are, why stem cell research is critical, and what the future of regenerative medicine looks like. This content performed really well. It got great engagement and reached nearly 11,000 unique users across all social media channels. So our engagement strategies were developed to foster and nurture a connection with current and potential followers. These are the strategies that will support that goal. We want to establish a response protocol to improve and streamline our social media engagement. We also want to leverage our digital and social channels to host more online forums and webinars. We've been doing this, but we want to set up a SOP to more efficiently develop and distribute social media toolkits and messaging guidelines that CIRM partners and stakeholders can utilize. We also want to lean in more and leverage the expertise of CIRM staff and the board to create and engage with our content. And we also want to increase our production of multi-language and accessible content in order to engage with a more diverse audience. So one engagement strategy I wanted to highlight is utilizing digital and social channels to host more online forums and webinars. This strategy was experimented with in August during the CIRM webinar, exploring advances in eye disease and regenerative medicine. The comms team collaborated closely with Aditi and Outreach Senior Advisor Jacqueline Hantkin to promote the webinar. We wanted to ensure we targeted our outreach to communities that would be especially interested in this type of content and share the webinar information with vision loss and retinitis pigmentosa Facebook groups. Although we were unable to measure the success of these postings on those Facebook groups, since we don't own the groups, we were at least able to engage and raise awareness of CIRM's work in the field. And the webinar we considered a success because it had over 130 registrants. Another key engagement strategy I want to highlight is developing and distributing social media toolkits and content sharing guidelines with CIRM stakeholders, partners, and grantees and trainees. For example, in June, we developed social media toolkits, content guidelines, and social media challenges. With the help of the science program and education team, we were able to connect and share all of these things with program participants through their educational program directors. This was a success because it garnered a lot of interest and excitement for both the Spark and CIRM training networking conferences. We also saw many program participants create and share content by tagging us on social media and using the event hashtags CIRM Spark Lab and CIRM Training Conference, which they also granted us permission to use that content on our own channels. And overall, we saw that we were tagged and mentioned over 100 times between the dates of August 9th and the 15th, which is when the conferences were being held, and a lot of engagement with those hashtags. And to tie it all together, we want to ensure that we create a fine balance of content for our followers and potential followers that is both informational and engaging. We've seen that videos, especially short videos, get a lot of engagement. So we want to increase and boost our video content. We want to share more patient and trainee stories and project updates. We also want to emphasize the importance of discovery research while also highlighting the advancements of the other research pillars. We also want to increase our use of guest writers and subject matter experts to create content. And we also want to leverage CIRM's strategic vision and goals, including the recently implemented SAF. One key content strategy I want to highlight is sharing more patient and trainee stories, principal investigator stories, CIRM staff perspectives, CIRM funded project successes, and behind the science pieces to make regenerative medicine more approachable to the average content consumer. One example is how we leverage the social media attention, and Maria actually brought this to our attention, the social media attention that Elpida Therapeutics founder Terry Pyrovolakis, I hope I pronounced that right, was receiving for research on a rare genetic disorder that affects one of his children. We wanted to use a little bit of that limelight and shine it on the preclinical award we granted Elpida for their Charcot-Marie disease type 4J study that they were doing. So we connected with Terry and his communications team and collaborated on creating blog and social media content. We also had the same approach with N. Lorem and the Dalby family. We connected with them for a status update on Connor and how he has been doing since starting his personalized investigational therapy. We were able to streamline and create content that we used for both blog and social. Another key content strategy that I'm going to highlight is how we want to increase our guest writer and SME content across all social media channels. This is something that we have been doing, but we want to be able to streamline the content collection process a little bit more. So we developed a series of surveys and distribute them accordingly. For example, we created a survey specific to CIRM Bridges trainees, so we could get more detailed accounts of their experiences within the program. We also created a survey for patients like Evie Jr., who kindly provided us an update of how he's been doing since his clinical trial and his thoughts on the importance of funding sickle cell disease research. There's also a survey that we distribute to principal investigators so we can collect in their own words and perspective their why being why they're interested in that research and why it's so important to fund. And then lastly, in addition to those goals and strategies, I added our social media platforms and tools that we identified as opportunities and considerations plan. Some opportunities being investing in social media listening tools that we can utilize to stay up to date for trending topics and conversations. We used to use Meltwater and Hootsuite, but we are currently manually monitoring these trends on the platforms themselves. Threads is also another great opportunity, and I've talked about Threads earlier, but it's a great opportunity because it is such a new platform and it is an alternative to X for users who are no longer using X. It's formatted in the same way, and it's a new way for us to get new followers and a new audience. We're also producing more video content since our insights show that video is what our audiences really resonate with. So we want to, we find this an opportunity to, boost our production of that. And then some social media platforms that, again, I mentioned earlier, but we are monitoring and considering our TikTok, Blue Sky Social, WhatsApp, X, and our presence on X, our strategy, I should say, not presence, but our strategy on X, and Reddit and Discord. And then with that, I want to thank everyone on the subcommittee again for your time today, and wanted to pose a question to you all if there were any strategies or tactics that I may have missed or can incorporate.
Thank you so much, Christina. That was a great presentation.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let me clap.
I just want to open it up now to any board members that have questions. Isabel. You have a
Well,
question.
I actually have a broader question. And so
Okay.
if anybody else has something very specific to what Christina just presented, I encourage them to go ahead. But I do have an issue that I want to raise for discussion. I don't know what the agenda looks like, so I'll step back and wait. I just need to get in the handheld mix, so you'll call on me soon.
Okay. There are no other hands? So hearing Isabel's questions, does anyone have any questions related to the presentation? Leandra.
Hi, no question, just a really big compliment. I love how you're integrating folks who have been funded through grant, through CIRM, and have stories about how they're utilizing the grant and just their life experiences. I really think that's the key here. The stories are really what connect people to our mission. And so I just want to compliment the team and doing such an intentional job of weaving that into the work that you're doing in terms of communications and PR. So thank you.
Thank you, Leandra.
Thank you.
Isabel, I think the floor is yours.
Okay, all right. And this does also include the communications team, but I'm also asking this of JT, Vito, and you, Maria.
Okay.
I'm here for a meeting of the National Cancer Institute, the National Cancer Advisory Board. I was there yesterday, and of course, I'm not wanting to avoid the issue, but they're sort of walking on tenterhooks about what they should say in public meetings or even around the water cooler. But knowing that because we're in the stem cell business and that California has been very independent and led the way, and we don't know what the new leadership at NIH is going to do, whether they even get to the issue of stem cells or not, I don't know. But I'm wondering if you working with communications team are preparing to be ready to respond to issues that may come up around the science, around what we're doing maybe, or what the feds intend to do, and it might impact our work or be directed at our work, and whether we're prepared, we're thinking about our communication strategies, whether we're preparing thought pieces about in counterbalance to what might come out. And I know this is a bit ahead of time, but I think we need to get in front of this issue instead of waiting for something to perhaps show up at our doorstep and hit us, get us between the eyes. So I'm interested, JT, if you've been thinking about it, but if you're going to sit down with the communications team at some point in time and really devise a whole plan around being ready, being responsive, and even taking editorial stands. And I'd love the rest of the committee to weigh in as well.
So thank you, Isabel. That's a very important question. We are spending a fair bit of time trying to anticipate what's likely to be coming down the pike here, given the change in leadership. And while it's obviously impossible to know exactly what that may be, we can assume, based on what we're hearing, that there could be a de-emphasis on funding for scientific research, specific issues with technologies that are squarely within our wheelhouse. And so we do need to be ready for that. And I think that just as an opening observation is, were that to be the case, we find ourselves a bit back to the future, which was CIRM was formed in an era of de-emphasis of funding in the stem cell arena, and CIRM is a direct outgrowth of that. And this is, it will be a bit different, but nonetheless, if we do get this, a similar de-emphasis in Washington, it only increases the importance of what we do and the prominence with which we are held in the field, and in fact, are looked upon correctly as the biggest enabler of stem cell and gene therapy research in the world, given our generosity of our taxpayer base, et cetera. So we are ready to reassume the mantle of leadership even further if the occasion arises. And we are thinking about what we're going to do. We're as to having things prepared at this point. We're looking to discuss that in more detail to sort of anticipate the host of things that could be coming at us, and fully plan to be on the forefront of the defense of stem cell and gene therapy research, should there be those that are on the other side of that equation. So the message to the board is we are taking this very seriously. We understand our role in the community of these two areas, and will plan to be prepared once we see sort of how things play out here, and are looking to be both proactive and reactive once we understand what that is. So I thank you for raising that, Isabel. It's a very important issue. I'm sure it's getting a lot of say where you are. I know Maria's been back in Washington and heard a lot as well that enters into this discussion. So stay tuned. But yes, we're very much anticipating the role that we're going to play in this.
George, and then Kim first, and then George.
So yes, thanks Isabel for raising this. And I think we have another both opportunity and responsibility in much the same way that JT just talked about the importance of standing up for research and stem cell research specifically in a likely area of quickly shifting priorities at the national level. I think we also have an important role to play in continuing to stress the importance of diversity in the clinical trials that we support, diversity in maintaining a pipeline of diverse workforce for stem cell research. We're hearing from our faculty who are engaged in a variety of NIH-funded workforce development programs, and specifically at the recent Abercrombs meeting, they were being told by NIH program officers, check your websites, scrub anything that mentions diversity. Do not use that word in your grant proposals.
I'm just putting this in the outdoor trash. You guys.
Elena.
Outdoor trash obviously has something to do with it, I think.
Well, maybe that was prescient.
So I think we have, California is positioning itself as a bulwark against some of these, I would say, really evil forces against things that we stand up for very strongly. And I think as a state agency, but also being in this position where we have taken a pretty strong stance that these treatments should be available to everybody, no matter where they're coming from, that we need a diverse workforce to really address the problems and the most challenging issues. And we are a very diverse state. So I would hope that we can stand in favor of that. And then just to inject a note of levity, I didn't see Truth Social on your platforms.
Can only cover so many.
That's probably where we'll get most of the ideas from what they're going to do. Truth Social.
I think George is next.
Okay, thank you. First of all, I want to thank Isabel for raising this issue. I had been thinking of raising it as well. So I think it's very timely, and this is something that we need to be thinking about. And I'm delighted to hear that JT has already been giving it considerable thought. So I agree with Kim's comments. I have very little to add to them, except to say that the defense that we need to make is not just for stem cell research, but it may actually be a defense of the scientific method. And I think seeing rationality emerging from California, I think will be good, both in terms of keeping the national discussion on track, and secondly, in raising the profile, not just of California, but of our own agency. So, so I'm really pleased that we're thinking about this. I think it's going to be important.
Any other questions or comments from the board?
I want to follow
Okay,
for a couple of reasons. One, I do think that the comms team really needs to be ready and nimble to respond. I just, because I think a lot of stuff is going to keep coming across the transom that might cause unease even in our population around the whole idea of science. It's been, you know, it's been pounded on for quite a while now, and we're going to have folks in place who will probably take more shots at it. So I think that in terms of leadership, George and Kim, I also think that we just need to defend science. And we need to once again be that leader out there, and even have our board members perhaps write an editorial each. Although I know your universities also have issues. So anyway, I just think that we need to be prepared. We need to be nimble, and we need to do it more often than not, so that we can sort of grab the topic by the tail and put a leadership voice out there. So I'm just giving you more work, JT.
Thank you, Isabel.
It's hard to defend science now by just defending how important science is, but rather I think CIRM has an opportunity by telling stories, which was mentioned previously. People think of stories that people are against science until they have someone in their family who's really ill, and then they're for science because they don't go and get leeches for treating cancer. In general, they want the best. And we've had here at Children's Hospital Los Angeles, we've had interesting political folks call and ask for favors about getting so-and-so into the hospital, a child, because of a major problem. So they talk in public about one way and they act in private in a very different way. The other thing is it's going to be really hard to predict what's going to happen because science is big business, let's face it, right? Some of the largest businesses in the world depend upon science being done at academic institutions. And so we're not quite sure what's going to happen, particularly related to the Senate, because many of the changes they may want to make are likely to want to make will have to go through there. And so I do think having statements prepared about what we do and have it vetted in a way so that it's clear, concise, and positive would be a really good idea to do now. Because it's certain that there are going to be fires across the bow. So having those statements prepared and vetted, because it takes time to develop even 2 sentences or 3 sentences in a way that highlights what we're doing in a really positive way and telling in the context of talking about the successes and scrambling once something comes out without having some of those prepared ahead of time creates more kind of anxiety. So that would be my recommendation as well.
thank you, Pat. No other questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Christine.
All right, so we're gonna move on to just some quick recaps of some outreach events that we attended. So in October and November, we attended several community events sharing with various communities about CIRM, who we are and what we do. Some events were disease-specific awareness events, and some were smaller community groups where we provided presentations for. So the first one is the Alzheimer's Walk to End Alzheimer's. So through our presence at the Ohana Health and Resource Fair back in August, we were able to connect directly with the Alzheimer's Association, which is a national organization, but we connected directly with their California affiliate groups. And we began developing a collaborative relationship with this organization, and we were invited to attend their numerous Walk to End Alzheimer's events that take place throughout California. We decided to attend the Fresno Madera event, recognizing that there has been some gap or, not as much presence in terms of us being out there in Madera and Fresno. So we wanted to, be present, show our commitment to that community in the Central Valley. And the event hosted more than 800 attendees with over 60 individuals coming to the CIRM booth. And the attendees were largely from Hispanic and Spanish-speaking communities around the Fresno Madera area. Esteban attended the event along with Alex from our grants management team. And it was also really great to have Adriana join and hang out at the booth and talk to folks. So a big shout out and thank you to Adriana. And I want to just quickly turn to Esteban in case he had anything to add.
Yeah, I think, just really with these booth interactions, those 60 that we mentioned here, those are just conversations that we had. But even beyond that, I think there's just a lot of value in having our name present there and having that visibility, because there were people who would come up, take brochures, take an annual report. We had a lot of really organic conversations. Really the big takeaway here is that there was a lack of familiarity with what CIRM is and what CIRM does. So I think really just opening up that conversation and really just asking people, are you familiar with who we are? Can I tell you about what we do? And people really listen. So I think really just tying it back to the work that we've done in Alzheimer's, some of the research that we funded, people are really appreciative of the conversation. And really, by the time that we have, these 5, in some cases we'll have 10-minute long conversations with people. They really just are so appreciative. And, many people just say like, thank you for doing this great work. Like, this is so amazing. I didn't know that this existed. Thank you. So I just really wanted to highlight that those conversations are very organic. And that's really how we strive to approach some of these events.
We also attended the Foundation Fighting Blindness Vision Walk in Santa Monica. This was really serendipitous because it took place right after the Alpha Clinic Symposium in LA. So I was able to stay, Katie and I were able to stay and join Jacqueline Hankin at this event. The event hosted more than 200 attendees with over 30 individuals stopping by our booth to learn about CIRM, who we are and what we do. The event had a raffle card where folks were incentivized to stop by every booth so that they could enter in the raffle and win various prizes. So that was really great because the vast majority of attendees stopped by our booth at least to check us out, if not to have those meaningful conversations. The majority of attendees at this event were patients, families of patients, or caregivers. We met folks directly impacted by blindness or hard of seeing diagnoses. And so it was really great to hear their feedback as far as, learning about us, learning that we exist and what we're doing, the research that has been funded in eye disease. So all positive feedback. Yeah. And then in November, we attended the ALS Walk and Roll event in East Bay. So the ALS Network reached out to us after the unfortunate loss of Fred Fisher and invited us to attend multiple ALS walk and roll events throughout California, but we decided that the East Bay was the most feasible for us in terms of time commitment. They felt it was important to have CIRM present at the event because of Fred Fisher's deep commitment into working in ALS and bringing awareness to ALS. So we felt it was also important to be there and share, you know, what he was doing. The event hosted more than 200 attendees over 50 individuals stopped by the booth, again, to learn about us, who we are, what we do. CIRM was also featured on the ALS live stream that they facilitated at the event. And Corinne and Jeff, as you can see on the screenshot, were able to share a little bit more about CIRM and reach a wider audience than those that attended the event live and in person. And it was really great having representatives from the leadership team, Jen, Jeff, and Raphael, as you can see in the photo, as well as Corinne's daughter, join the event. And it was really great having more folks from CIRM join and kind of see what we do at these community awareness events and, you know, add their perspective and talk about what they do. And Corinne, did you have anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, I will just say it was a really amazing event. It was beautiful. It took place in Point Richmond. It was so nice to have the not entire, but some members of the CIRM team. I dragged my 9-year-old there. She gave out our Halloween candy. And we had just amazing conversations. It was really a great way to connect with the community. They had a number of events, including a Zumba dance-off, which Jen and I participated in. There may be some video on that, but it won't end up on social media.
How'd you do?
That'll be the blooper reel.
I did well, JT. Of course. We had a chance to connect with some members of the ALS network in terms of communication and media partners. And so we saw some familiar faces. We shared a lot of content with them. And it was just really great to have the conversations with the community. As Esteban mentioned, people are just appreciative of our presence there and just taking the time to explain who we are, what we do, the amount of money that we funded in ALS research. People just were very responsive to it. I was told that as a scientist, I explained everything really well, but I told them I wasn't a scientist. But, you know, just having those conversations was really, really important and really highlights the importance of attending these events. So
thank you. And finally, I wanted to highlight just an initiative that we've been restarting or re-engaging with local Rotary clubs across California. So this is something that Kevin had previously led and implemented. And so we, you know, on the recommendation of Maria and some other subcommittee members, we really wanted to reconnect with these Rotary clubs. So to date, we've presented at the Campbell and San Francisco Rotary Clubs, and we have a few upcoming. We've scheduled presentations in South Pasadena and Fremont, and we have dates pending in Castro Valley and San Mateo. Fun fact, the San Francisco Rotary Club is actually the second oldest Rotary Club in the world, and the attendees, there were about 50 or 60 attendees at the presentation that we went to. And they had a live stream, which I only found out about that day. Otherwise, I would have shared with everyone so they could join as well. But that's good to know for the future. But yeah, it's been a great experience connecting with these Rotary clubs. The audience, the community members are pretty diverse, depending on the location. So the Campbell location was more elderly, more retired folks, and the San Francisco group was much more diverse in age and ethnicity. So I think it's really depends on where the Rotary clubs are located, who we're going to reach in those demographics. Every Rotary club, even the folks I'm still in communication with and haven't finalized dates, all positive reception to having us and great interest in having us and learning more about CIRM and sharing about what we do. And at the San Francisco presentation, there was a lot of interest in what we're funding in breast cancer and MS.
Yes.
Because some members of that group were directly impacted or had family directly impacted by those diagnoses. So it was really great to be able to, Christina joined me and she was able to look up some quick numbers for me to share to connect more with those club members. So it's really been a great initiative. We've been working with science officers on the CLIN teams to also just make sure that the information we're presenting is valid and accurate and appropriate, working with legal team to make sure everything we're sharing publicly is sound. So it's been a real collaborative team effort across CIRM. And did you have a question?
I just had a comment when you're finished.
Oh, yeah. So yeah, just overall, a really great experience, and I'm really excited to continue moving forward.
So thank you very much, DP. I would like to encourage members of the board to do one of these events. And as chair, I went to several over the years, and it is always a most appreciative audience. They don't know a lot about what we do, but it's a great opportunity to explain and to have them as conduits to getting information about CIRM out to their many friends. And so I would strongly encourage, if you have some time on your calendar, perhaps at DT, you could coordinate with board members to make them aware of the opportunities to do this, because I think you'll find it very rewarding.
I can absolutely send the confirmed dates that we have as of now out to the board, and as that gets updated, I'm happy to work with Claudette and Scott to get that information, and then feel free to confirm with me. The South Pasadena and Jacqueline Hankins is going to be presenting there, so I'll be able to connect if anyone can attend with Jacqueline. But
what's the date of that one?
January 8th. It's my birthday.
I bet Pat would love to go to that.
But yeah, absolutely. Just I will send those dates out as well as the location information, and then we can work from there.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Excellent. So now I'd like to provide a few updates on the communications front. But before that, I just wanted to again thank Christina for her amazing work on developing the social media strategy, the full strategy, which you have available for you all to review, and as well as for an excellent presentation to really summarize some of the key strategies and points of the document. And so I think really moving forward, it's really going to augment all of the work that the communications team has done. And so kudos to you, Christina.
Thank you.
So to move forward, I wanted to provide a couple of quick updates. As you all know, we recently launched our annual report. The theme for this year was Our Journey Forward, How CIRM Catalyzes Regenerative Medicine Today and Beyond. And it really reflects the milestones we've achieved and positions CIRM as a driving force in advancing the field. And so this was a very special annual report, and I spent quite a bit of time in Vito's office working side by side in developing this publication. And so across 36 pages, we've included patient stories, a milestone timeline, community voices, highlights from this past year, as well as quotes from leaders throughout the field on CIRM's impact. And so the annual report actually kicked off our 20th anniversary campaign. And so with that, as you all received the link to the digital view book, which is very interactive. We're very proud of how it looks and how it presents the information. And we distributed the digital view book through email campaign. This was carried across with broader messaging regarding our 20th anniversary. We issued a press release as well as tying back, really highlighting it on our website through a website carousel, which is sort of the rotating image that you'll see that links directly to the digital view book. We also took that and developed social media interactive content in various content pieces that were shared throughout our social media channels. And we will continue to do that throughout the course of December and into January. Moving forward, a lot of the content that's been developed, again, throughout 36 pages, is going to continue to be repurposed to drive home, the impact and the importance of CIRM on our 20th anniversary. So that includes highlights to, again, patient stories, researchers. And throughout all of the content that's going to be repurposed throughout this campaign, we have developed specialized hashtags to tie that back to the overall message of the campaign. And so the annual report is currently being printed. We launched it in a phased approach digitally, internally first and with the board, and then to our publicly. And so now it's in the printing stages. It should be printed in the next 2 weeks. The report is also being currently translated in Spanish. And so we look forward to seeing the print version. We know it's just, really going to bring to life a lot of the stories and the content that you see in the digital interactive piece. From there, a distribution strategy has been created. We will repurpose parts of what we utilized last year. The printed version will be distributed to many partners, to you all, think our alpha clinics, those that were featured. Think of all the different stakeholders. And so this past year, we actually got through, distributing most of our annual reports, which we printed about 500. And this year we're doubling that to 1,000. And so we definitely intend to distribute that throughout our network. And, we're very proud of the work. And thank you to JT and Vito for supporting us with this. Another project that I'd like to highlight, in addition to, developing a social media strategy and all the other items that, we've shared. One thing that we worked on, we're very proud of, we developed an Alpha Clinics network branding and toolkit. And this is really to provide the Alpha Clinic teams with the resources needed to effectively communicate their work and achievements. And so as part of this, we underwent a process of redoing and refreshing their logo. And this really gives the logo a new look to capture the spirit of innovation. We wanted to make sure that it reflected the collaborative nature that drives the shared mission. And so with the logo, we created a horizontal and vertical option, which is one lockup. And that provides the flexibility to our Alpha Clinics to utilize the logo across collateral. In addition, we created a number of items and tools that really carries across a lot of the messaging that includes one-pagers, trifold brochures, and the materials are really customized so that Alpha Clinics can utilize these materials to communicate to different audiences as needed. In addition to that, we also developed a messaging toolkit, and that's really to provide key messages to communicate the network's impact and achievements. And as you can see in this slide, what we have here is within the toolkit, history of the network, boilerplate for press releases. This is important to utilize for consistency, an elevator pitch for Alpha Clinics to talk about who they are and to really communicate the positioning, as well as key messages that are broken down by various stakeholders and audiences. There's a number of calls to action. And really this messaging toolkit is something that can be and will be replicated for many CIRM programs moving forward, but it really just brings it all together and highlights, impact as well as CIRM's role in the development of this. All right. In addition, as Christina mentioned, another campaign, a mini campaign that we worked on the past few months was our Stem Cell Awareness Day, which we launched in October. As Christina mentioned, we developed content across a number of our channels. And we created this really amazing video. And for some reason, every time we get to the subcommittee, we always have technical issues. And it's not working, right, Claudette? Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for the anticipation, but we're gonna have to email it to you after. But the video is great. It was during our staff retreat. It was at the Presidio, so it was a beautiful day. And it features a number of CIRM leadership talking about the importance of Stem Cell Awareness Day, as well as talking about CIRM's impact and really capturing, our mission and our impact in a really nice, concise video that we distributed throughout our channels. So stay tuned. We will share that with you all. And let's go to the next slide. And then I'll pick up this one.
Yeah, and I just wanted to give a quick example of some of the ways that we work with scientific teams as well. As we're talking some of these updates, we highlight a lot of more community focus, but we do also strive to work to reach the scientific community. So back in September, I was invited to attend the UC San Diego Gene Therapy Initiative, which is a new initiative out of UC San Diego. And the goal of that is to really fuel research in the development of gene-based therapies at UC San Diego. And this was a really great, wonderful, informative event, especially for me, just even learning a lot about some of these efforts here. But it was great because, again, Christina earlier highlighted the importance of collaborating with institutions, CIRM researchers. And that's exactly what we did here. We were able to connect with the founders of the Gene Therapy Initiative, which were Stephanie Shirky and Allison Motri out of UC San Diego, and really work together to, again, develop key messages, campaigns, develop some content. They also were really great with facilitating, our needs and making sure that we were able to collect some of that content. So in addition to having a booth, you can actually see me there engaging with some of the attendees. We really wanted to make sure that we highlighted our funding into gene therapies at CIRM. Also, we're able to connect with the Stack family, who's pictured right there on the upper right. Their daughter, Natalie, was a patient in a CIRM-funded clinical trial for cystinosis. So it was really great to have that face-to-face with them and really just hear from them, about CIRM's impact and why our presence in California is so important. They actually provided funding for the Gene Therapy Initiative. So again, being able to connect with them was really important. But then in addition to that, we really took this and leveraged this event to collect additional content, some stories. We were able to meet some trainees at the Shirky lab, pictured there on the bottom left. We're also able to conduct interviews with another patient who was in the cystinosis trial. That's Kurt Gillenberg, who will be sharing that story as we produce it, look at some of the videos and some of the responses that he shared with us. But really, again, in addition to all of these things, a lot of the post-event engagement was great. We were featured in the Gene Therapy Initiative newsletter, contributed and shared content, including photos and videos. Also, we're able to connect again with the UC San Diego team and making sure that they amplified our content, sharing the blog so that they can share it to their thousands and thousands of followers on social media. So again, this is just a really great example of reaching these scientific communities, because that's something that we're really striving to do a lot more as well, and really collaborating with the science officers at CIRM. I do want to recognize Lisa Kadike, who was really supportive with developing some of the messaging and really collaborating to meet some of the goals for this event. So this is just an example that we wanted to highlight.
Thank you, Esteban. Just quickly, we don't have a slide for this, but I wanted to provide an update that we recently launched our CIRM Community Connections newsletter, the digital version. And again, this publication really aims to deepen our engagement with patient advocates, as well as to reach diverse communities, provide updates on our research, highlight any events from the state. We recently launched the digital version, and is Katie on? Yeah, I'll let Katie talk a little bit about that, because she was instrumental in launching the digital version of the publication.
Thanks, Corinne. I don't have a whole lot to add, just because this was our inaugural issue. I've been keeping track of the metrics, and both audiences that we shared it with have had great open rates, especially our patient advocate audience. I think we went into this with the intention of having this be a resource to them. So it's been really exciting to see that they're very interested in the content. I saw the details of the click-throughs. People are clicking into the YouTube video that we shared from the Alpha clinics. So it's I can see that we, through tracking these metrics, will be able to see which content is people are more responsive to, and we'll be able to share more of that in the future. But this serves as a great benchmark for our first issue of the Community Connections.
Yeah, thank you, Katie. And I believe you mentioned we had about a 40% open rate initially.
Yes,
That was
yes.
very high.
And it actually keeps sort of increasing day to day. So that's just the initial, because we just launched it last week. So that's just the initial open rate. I think it's gone over a little bit over 40 now. And even the other one, which was at 26%, is almost at 30%. So it's looking really good. And I shared the newsletter with you all, I believe, yesterday via email. So if any of you have questions, or if you weren't able to open that link through the email, please let me know and I'll send that to you again.
Great, thank you so much,
Who does
Katie.
it go to, Katie? Who is it sent to?
Yeah, sorry, who was asking?
It's Pat. Sorry.
Oh, yes, it was actually sent to all of you guys. I sent it to the best email I had on file. I'll have a look again for you, Pat, and I'll.
No, I'm not asking about me. I'm just asking in general, who is this? So
For the audiences, yes. So there were two audiences. One is a big list. It's about maybe 2,500 people, and these are anyone who we meet at an event or who signs up for a newsletter or updates via the website. So these are just general audience. And then the other one, which has about, I think, 800 people, that one's our patient advocates. Everyone that we've been in touch with that, have done work for us. Like, I think I myself I'm probably on that list. So yeah, it's been these two that we sent it out to. We'll see if we want to expand the reach at some point. But for now, this was our initial campaign, and it's done great so far. So
is there a way of figuring out how to send it to policymakers, local, city, county, and state? Because it seems to me that this would be a perfect. They're not going to spend time clicking through a website, but this digital newsletter, which highlights things that we want them to understand CIRM is doing.
Absolutely.
So being able to generate a listserv that would include, I think it's important to have local, county, and state folks that would get this on a regular basis. It's going to penetrate, and it's going to it'll reach a lot of important folks in terms of talking about what CIRM is doing in their community, even allowing them to think about contacting us in case they want some activity going on locally that they would really want us to participate in.
Absolutely. Sorry, Corinne, I'll let you add anything if you'd like.
Yeah, I was gonna say those are all excellent points, and that's definitely the intention. For right now, the newsletter was launched digitally, but come winter, it will be a print publication, which will be distributed quarterly, and the team will be able to develop those distribution strategies to those audiences that you mentioned, which are really, really crucial. Developing content that resonates with them and sharing it out to various stakeholders to continue to communicate CIRM's impact. In addition, this is something that will help support the outreach strategy. So as the CIRM team continues to attend a lot of these outreach events, one thing that the team has utilized is an iPad for people to sign up for email, to provide their email to sign up for updates, and they'll be able to sign up for this newsletter, whether it's digital or if they want to print moving forward. So this will further drive, the outreach and communication strategy. So I wanted to highlight that.
I just want to highlight that, in my experience working with this National Scientific Council on the Developing Child, where we get several million distributions of a working paper that we write, we started recognizing, working with nationally with state so that's a national reach with state legislators, that the legislative aides, the aides to the elected officials are the ones who really, they'll read this stuff and they'll talk to their boss, to their supervisor about it. And I think, getting it digitally, from my perspective, it has worked extraordinarily well, especially if it's downloadable from the website where you have a link and they can then download a hard copy. But to me, the office folks are really critically important to get connected with CIRM, because they're the ones that are going to put it in front of the 100 other items that are on a legislator's desk. And we really need them to be engaged starting as soon as possible because of, you know, all sorts of things, what we talked about before in terms of being ready to respond to what may happen coming out of Washington, DC, to getting a very positive outlook on what we're doing as more and more clinical trials are going to be recognized as being successful, et cetera. So however we can get that information and get it out there digitally, I think would be really helpful. It's really important.
Thank you, Pat. That's very insightful.
Katie,
Yes.
Isabel here.
Hi, yes.
I'm at the top. Two things. When you talked about the database to which you're distributing, are you sending it to our student groups, the high school kids as well as our college kids? Because they would also be great to send this out and get it out. And secondly, the question is, are you putting somewhere down in the bottom, please feel free to distribute to your networks?
Actually, I think that's great that you said feel free to distribute, but we do have a little section at the end where it says where they can contact us. But I think it's very important, like you said, to have more diverse audiences. I think we're sort of thinking of this first launch as sort of a pilot to see how the content does, you know, how these metrics look. So, you know, any suggestions you have for additional people that we should send it to, I think this is a great suggestion. Thank you, Isabel, for putting that out there. I'll be sure to take notes on all these things, and I look forward to you know, the next one hopefully coming out in February to update you on that and have good things to share.
Well, I'll dig through my email to see if I actually got it.
Yeah, and please let me know.
Because I do want to see it.
Again.
Yeah.
All
Thanks,
right.
Isabel.
All right, well, that's the presentation for today. We wanted to open it up. Well, first we wanted to thank you all for listening and providing support and guidance and insights as always. You know, we really appreciate all of the feedback that is received, and we'll open it up if you all have any additional questions.
Are there any questions for members of the committee? I do have a question for DT. And a comment. It's clear that when we go out into the community and interact with people on a one-to-one basis and have those conversations, they are meaningful and people connect to our mission and what we're doing. And I know that you're currently putting together a outreach strategy. And so something I would really encourage you to do, because obviously our team alone cannot possibly handle doing outreach all the time, everywhere on a one-to-one basis, like on a personal level. So in any programs that you can consider or think of that would encourage partners to work with us to also create that meaningful interaction, an in-person interaction, I would encourage you to include that in any sort of outreach strategy that you come up with.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, utilizing like the education trainees is a key part of our outreach strategy has been. I know the trainees are required to do some form of outreach during their grantee cycle. So that's definitely part of it. And I think these relationships that we're building, like with the ALS network, with the Alzheimer's Association, with Foundation for Fighting Blindness, like these are relationships that will build into that kind of, I don't want to say secondary outreach, like it's less than, but it kind of like us providing them information about CIRM and them sharing that out. So it's definitely something that I'm considering and looking at as an opportunity as I'm building these relationships. I think that level of ask from these organizations and these partners is going to take time. Sure. Just because, you know, a lot of, while we are a 20-year-old agency, we are still new to a lot of these organizations. So I want to make sure that Jacqueline and I have the time to really create strong rapport with these organizations, strong relationships, and that it's a bi-directional win-win relationship for everyone. Right?
Absolutely. I think something, and Isabel has mentioned this before in the past as well. I think something that we can consider and look for, and it's something that the Community Care Centers of Excellence and that RFA has allowed is connections with community-based organizations and finding and being able to support, to have community-based organizations help us in doing our outreach to the communities that they are in is really important. And that can be an RFA or an RFP, so that we don't expect that somebody's just doing this, you know, just because, but that we value their outreach, their time and what they're doing, that we know it's mutually beneficial, and that we also appreciate this work and are willing to support it monetarily. And I would really encourage that as a program to roll out, because that gets us into the communities. It takes some of the burden off of you having to go to every event all the time, and that's just not possible.
Yeah.
So, and two people can't do that either. We couldn't even, hiring internally for that's not feasible either. So figuring out a way of allocating dollars to a program like this is, I think, would be really instrumental in broadening that reach. So I would encourage and support
Absolutely.
that.
I think the CCCE will really demonstrate the use case for a program like that, because the relationships that they're gonna pull in with CBOs and, you know, that piece of the program is gonna flourish, and it's gonna show everyone how beneficial doing that is going to be. So I think we will, you know, see the value in that and hopefully be able to implement a unique program of doing that.
Yeah, and I think really just, Maria, to your point, you know, there's one component, which is adding the budget, of course, but Aditi, you mentioned, you know, continuing to work with those trainees, and we're really thinking of ways to, really just finding ways to reach more of the trainees, because we have hundreds of people across the state, and that's one way that helps us meet those geographic goals. And I think even in talking about some of our own outreach efforts, us going to, for example, we went recently to San Jose State to talk to those trainees there about the importance and how they can do outreach. And I think they get really excited when they see that. So what we're really looking to do is, you know, can we develop a newsletter that will actually engage all of them at once, so that they can see, hey, here's a great example, here's a toolkit that Christina highlighted. Providing them with those tools so that they can easily go out there as well. So that's one thing that, you know, while Christina didn't highlight it in detail, the social media strategy does talk about implementing some of those processes. And we really think that while the engagement with the trainees has really improved, we can still do a lot of work to support with those efforts too.
And I think the CIRM Hub has been really instrumental in a lot of the engagement with the trainees through their program directors. I know a lot of these events that I highlighted, I've put on the CIRM Hub to promote for trainees to come and support. While they didn't necessarily, wasn't successful in this case, I know, again, taking time and continuing to do that will inevitably get trainees more involved. Yeah.
Scott, are there any members of the public that have?
Does not appear.
So I'd like to
Go
give a
ahead.
comment.
Yes, JT.
So I'd just like to bring the meeting a bit full circle and just to say a few things about Corinne, who, as you know, joined us a little less than a couple of years ago and has done a wonderful and very professional job of stewarding the agency through a period of a lot of change. We've had leadership change, we've had organizational change, we've gone through a year of reassessment of what we're going to be doing from a priority standpoint, all of which required a lot of communication, both internally, externally, to get the message across of what we are doing. That is all on top of sort of the normal things that come up all the time, and needing to lead our team, which you've seen, of course, many times, that you got to see today, and what a great job they're all doing as led by Corinne over this period of time. And I didn't want the opportunity to go by without saying thank you for all that you've done for the institution. I do want to make one little specific additional comment, which is, and I've said this to a few people, as Corinne says, we've known she was going to be leaving the agency at the end of the week. And many times people who are in the lame duck session don't necessarily really take those last days and weeks as seriously as they might have in midstream. And I just wanted to report to members of the subcommittee that Corinne has done a terrific job of doing everything she possibly can to get the many initiatives that are underway that she and the team have been working on as far along as they possibly could be, so that she feels that we're left in very good, capable hands. So I want to thank you for that additionally as well, Corinne. We wish you well in your next life professionally. And do hope, of course, that you stay closely in touch. One final thing to say to the subcommittee. Obviously, this is a position of extreme importance. We are very much already into the process of working to identify somebody who can come in and fill Corinne's very large shoes. In the interim, that's going to take a period of time. In the interim, I'm going to be overseeing the communications team over the next period of weeks. And as always, welcome all of your wonderful insights and comments on priorities, how you think things could be done going forward, much as we've had discussion today about very important topics. So stay tuned on that front, but I would like to have a round of applause for Corinne.
Yay! Thank you, Corinne. It's been lovely to work with you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Elena Flowers.
Elena?
Oh, she's clapping. She's
clapping. Yay, thank you, Elena.
Since you called on me, that was just a celebratory clap, and I'm so sorry, everyone, for my mute faux pas earlier.
Did you get the trash out?
Thank you. With that, I think we stand adjourned. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Happy
Maria.
holidays.
Happy holidays.
See you at the board
Bye,
meeting.